Audio lesson on Huckleberry Finn. This lesson is designed for the second year students of MA English and is based on Block 3 of Paper 6. Mr. Danish Manzoor will take you through a study of Huckleberry Finn during this lesson.
Huckleberry Finn. The novel Huckleberry Finn by Mark Twain, alias Samuel Langhorne Clemens, is a virulent attack on the prevalent evils in the American society of the time of Mark Twain. The adolescent narrator, actor, principal character adds full force to the narrative. Very successfully, Mark Twain keeps himself out of the narrative but does not remain completely away from the plot. At several places, we find him as the persona in Huck or even Jim. Raising social issues and critiquing them is not an easy task. Twain can successfully overcome this issue by the first-person narrative that he employs. The whole point of view is through the lens of the boy with little learning, the protagonist, Huckleberry Finn, after whom the novel is named. Designed as a sequel to Tom Sawyer, Mark Twain shifts his attention from toy to his friend Huck. Set across the Mississippi River in the antebellum South, the novel is a scathing attack on virulent racism. Huck's journey down the river Mississippi is a process of initiation, a voyage of discovery and a quest for identity. The journey down the river on the raft with Jim is indeed an enduring image. Solidly rooted in the American milieu, the novel faced rough weather initially for its coarse, rough, and inelegant language, and later for its racial slurs. Huck Finn was banned by the Concord Library in 1885. Soon after its publication, and then in 1957, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP, condemned the book as an affront to the dignity of the African Americans. The extensive use of the term nigger has come under attack and objected to because of its racist overtones and because it degrades the African Americans. However, in spite of this, Huck Finn is an acknowledged classic of American literature. Ernest Hemingway considered it the source of all American literature. In fact, it is the innovative use of dialect by the semi-literate protagonist that is now considered a remarkable contribution of the novel. The picaresque form of the novel lends it a linear structure, and the episodes are kept woven together by the character narrator who is central to the plot. The picaresque form is used to either expose the weakness or to make a confession. In the case of Huck Finn, it is used for both. Not only is the novel an indictment of the corruption, moral decay, and impoverishment prevalent in the American society of the time that it represents, but it is also an open account of his life, especially with Jim. Thus, like a picaresque novel, there is a social concern in Huck Finn as well as extensive use of satire. Even though neither is Huck a rogue nor is there a journey by road, Huck himself is depicted as living on the fringe of respectable society. The extensive use of satire in the novel is not only in consonance with the picaresque tradition, but is also used as a tool by Mark Twain to social reform. The use of humor in Huck Finn is inseparable from Mark Twain. He himself considered literature to be synonymous with humor. Humor and irony serve as a double-edged weapon in the novel. Huck's language and his innocence add to the appeal. Written at a time when there was intense reaction against African Americans by mainstream society, the novel embodies a quest for freedom. Aimed against racial oppression, the novel holds up a mirror to the American society. Mark Twain depicts how racial segregation, slavery, and the inhuman treatment meted out to the African Americans served as a canker to the whole of American society. The young Huck Finn exercises his moral choice to be with Jim and to treat him as a friend. It is indeed fascinating to watch the two on the raft, each one incomplete without the other, and each one needing the other to be a complete whole. From the moment Mark Twain began to describe things as Huck would see them, and to make of Huck's vernacular a language resource of the most captivating shrewdness, realism, and stoical humor, he, that is Mark Twain, was almost against his will, forced to go deeper into his own imaginative senses than he had ever gone before. Writing in the first person became the deliverance of Mark Twain. Impersonating a 14-year-old vagabond, the son of the town drunk, who hates being adopted, Mark Twain had fallen completely into Huck's style and Huck's soul. Smart alecky and sometimes mechanically facetious as Mark Twain was when he first assumed Huck's ignorance of religion, of polite language, of civilized ways, Mark Twain would soon be committed to a great subject. Huck, the runaway from his father, and Jim, the slave running away from Miss Watson, going down the river hoping to enter the Ohio River, and freedom. Freedom from respectable ways for Huck, freedom from slavery for Jim. The quest is eternal, even though they miss the Ohio River in the dark and keep going south. The quest for freedom is eternal, because Huck and Jim have nothing in this world but that quest. Mark Twain would never, despite appearances, be content with his celebrated position in life. Like Huck, at the end of this book, he wanted to light out for the territory ahead of the rest. Huckleberry Finn is above all a novel of low company, of people who are so far down in the social scale that they can get along only by their wits. Huck has nothing but his wits. As he says about himself, I go a good deal by instinct. The society along the river is class conscious, but the classes cannot help knowing one another and entering into one another's lives. In a great novel of society, which Huckleberry Finn so acidly turns out to be whenever Huck and Jim go ashore, what counts is the reality behind the appearance. The reality, though sometimes naively misinterpreted by Huck, depends always on Huck's inexperience. Nothing could be more devastating as a social satire than the Victorian gingerbread and sentimental mourning, described absolutely straight by the homeless and admiring Huck. Remaining only the classic, poor white, Huck goes the whole route as the onlooker that Mark Twain remained in his heart. The riverbank scene ends on one of those recurrent escapes that make up the storyline of Huckleberry Finn. I tramped off in a hurry for the creek and crowded through the willows, red hot to jump abroad and get out of that awful country. Huck has to keep running from quality people like Grangerfords, the Wilkses, and the murdering Colonel Sherburne. Vagrancy is Huck's first freedom. He does not even choose to go traipsing down the Mississippi with Jim, who just happens to be on Jacon's Island when Huck gets there. The novel is one happening after another. Huck happens to fall in with the runaway slave instead of living by the book with Tom Sawyer. As Babfin chooses the mud, Huck chooses the river. From the very beginning of their flight, Huck and Jim are in ecstasies whenever they are safe for a while. The boy Huck is up against forces bigger than himself, the greatest of which can be his inexperience, so he has to play smart. But the smarter the boy, the more fatalistic he is. Wary of people, Huck weaves his way in and out of many hazards and dangers. He is the American Ulysses. He has come through.
So, until you come through, we suggest you read the novel Huckleberry Finn. Script Dr. Gulfisha Habib. Presentation Mr. Danish Manzoor. Producer Mr. Rafiqur Rahman. Production Assistant Mr. Mohammad Ghaus. Technician Mr. Satish Kumar Gupta. A Maulana Azad National Urdu University presentation.